The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone. I think everyone has now arrived, so I'm going to get started with the webinar. Lovely to see you all here today. I know you're all here to see EquatIO, so I am going to begin and start sharing my screen. And hopefully everyone will be able to see that now. If you have any questions throughout, just let me know and write it in the chat and I will answer those as I go along. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Nicole and I look after DSA within Texthelp. If anyone isn't involved in DSA here, not to worry, it's the same product. So anything I'm talking about DSA, just take that and put that into your own situation, whether you be an AT coordinator or a maths teacher or professor, then it's the same project across the board. So it means that you can still use EquatIO and everything I'm going to show you today. If you need to contact me for any reason after the webinar, there is my little email address just down the bottom. Feel free to let me know if you have any queries that you maybe want to ask on the webinar, and any other questions, whether you need a copy of the software or whether it's separately maybe read and write related, just get in touch with me. So I'm going to start by just telling you quickly a little bit about EquatIO for anyone who hasn't seen it before. This is an update of EquatIO webinar, but I will still go through all the main features for anyone who hasn't actually had a chance to see that working before. So EquatIO is our new maths product within Texthelp. It's a standalone product and it was created by this guy, John McGowan, and he is the product manager for EquatIO within Texthelp. He originally created a product called GMath, and that was available as a free add-on on the G Suite system. So it was available across the board and you could use it in doc sheets and forms. And we basically loved it and then thought that we could adapt that into Texthelp and make it work with read and write to enable not only it to do all the functionality that GMath had, but also add some bits and pieces in there and also then make it read aloud so students could have their equations proofread to them, whereas before they never would have been able to have the maths proofread and then edit that digitally. So like I said, John now works for us and he's involved in everything to do with EquatIO. And the good thing is he is an ex-maths teacher, so he does have a maths background, which is great. So from the very beginning, everything goes through him to make sure it's all up to speed. And the whole basis behind GMath and now EquatIO was a universal design for learning platform. So John, obviously, whenever he was working, he would be doing everything on pen and paper, but now coming into the digital era, there is so much more need for things to be presented in a digital format, especially whenever you get into university. Then dissertations and projects, coursework, everything has to be submitted in a digital format. And that's great when it comes to literacy because there's a lot of tools out there. But when it comes to maths, there is a lot less products available for people to actually use to help them if they do have a learning difficulty, especially within DSA. So within EquatIO, John actually realised that there was a need for people to input maths in a different way to suit how they learn. So anyone who has seen it will know that there is the different options to input, such as prediction, speech input, handwriting recognition, and also LaTeX. So those 4 options are in there. And then there is a little graph creator as well. So it just means that no matter what this way the student wants to learn, the options are in there in EquatIO, hopefully, so they can pick and choose whichever one suits them rather than being forced to actually do it in a certain way whenever it's not actually how their brain would normally process information. So like I said, built on UDL principles, so we have the prediction, handwriting recognition, speech input, and LaTeX in there, which I'll show you whenever I'm demonstrating it. And because it now is integrated with read and write as well, it means that the students have the math to speech element as well as being able to proofread their literacy. They can proofread their equations, which I'll also show you. And it doesn't just do straight maths, it will actually pick up STEM and chemistry subjects as well. So whether that be the periodic table, maybe a student doing chemistry or pharmacy, or whether it be a physics student and they need the kilometre squared, metre squared, things like that. So it'll pick up everything in there, not just the actual math, straight maths degrees. And I've added this little slide in because a lot of assessors were asking me if I had any recommendations or if I had heard from any assessors what EquatIO was actually being recommended for. So myself and, if I'm sure lots of you know, Jackie, our head of training within Texthelp, created this little document. So basically everything I'm going to show you today is available whenever you recommend EquatIO. So you'll see all products here. So when you recommend EquatIO, then the student will get access to the main EquatIO toolbar, which I'll show you. And they'll also get access to mathspace, the web app, and EquatIO mobile. So these don't have to be recommended separately whenever you're submitting the form. And then likewise, you have all platforms. So you have your Windows, Mac, your Chrome, tablet, and mobile that the EquatIO mobile is available on. So the mobile and tablets cover any Android smartphones using the Chrome browser, and also Apple products as well, whether that be an iPad or an iPhone. So that's all under one recommendation. And also, a lot of assessors were thinking that it was just applicable for maths, which I mentioned, so it's not. So these are just a list of courses that we have put together that it's actually appropriate for. And it's literally anything that involves formulas, equations, whether that be nursing, which a lot of people don't think of, but when students are trying to work out measurements for dosage of medicine, then they would need to actually use equations for that. So all those courses in there can be used with EquatIO, and I'm sure there's much more as well, but we listed just a few. And then also in terms of what it helps with, so the learning difficulty, as you can see, is on the left hand side here. So we have reading difficulty, dyslexia, and dyscalculia. And then on the right hand side is literally just all the features within EquatIO which actually helps ease the pain of these learning difficulties whenever a student is trying to study. So I won't go through them all, but for example, just the maths prediction, it helps stop spelling errors, which makes it much easier for students to complete their work faster if they're not making constant errors or having to learn keyboard shortcuts. They can help prediction help with that as well, and it'll pick up what the student's trying to say. Then EquatIO Mobile makes all their documents accessible, so a student can take a picture of a book or a page in a library or in a lecture and then convert that into an accessible format, just like the scanning feature in the main read and write toolbar, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Also, anxiety, and particularly maths anxiety, is a big issue for students who maybe love maths, but obviously then when it comes to putting the maths into that digital format, it's not as natural for them. So the fact that the handwriting capability is in EquatIO means that if they're used to handwriting equations and they are happy to do that, then they don't have to change how they think just because it's going into a digital format. And the best way to do that is through EquatIO Mobile, which I'll show you when we move on to the demonstration stage. And then the first look that we're going to see today is actually the screenshot reader, which has just been added today into the EquatIO toolbar. So that again improves accessibility for students and means that they can read anything, whether it's inserted with EquatIO or not. So if they just screenshot it like the normal read and write screenshot reader, they can hear that read aloud and they can also then edit it with EquatIO. So it makes that much more accessible and cuts down the stress for students. Then we have hearing impairments. So with EquatIO, the students can input the maths, but if they then want to hear that read aloud, read and write needs recommended alongside EquatIO. And then it means that although they have a hearing impairment, they can hear it read aloud, but they'll also get the dual highlighters in there as well, so they can track exactly where the words are, just like read and write. So, but that means you need to recommend read and write as well as EquatIO because they are two separate products. And then for any auditory learners who do prefer to have the equations proofread, then it means they can have that read aloud again, and they can use a screenshot reader as well to proofread any inaccessible documents. So it means that they can hear everything, and a lot of the time once they hear it, they'll maybe realize their mistakes or pick out some mistakes, and then they'll be able to edit that really easily with EquatIO. And then of course there is anyone with visual impairment or visual stress. They have the math to speech element. They can also use the screen masking within read and write, and that will go over the maths equations. and then they can hear them proofread with the exact background colour if they have maybe Mears-Irland syndrome and need that specific colour to actually process the information on that page. And then EquatIO and EquatIO Mobile also allow students to convert the images that they've taken, maybe in the lecture on their phones, or maybe in a library if they don't want to carry a lot of books home with them. They can just take a little picture or take it off the web, whichever format they have that isn't accessible. Then they can convert that into a Microsoft Word document or a Google document, and then make that editable as well, and then solve that equation digitally. So it does cut down a lot of stress for students. This little document was made a couple of weeks ago, and we are currently just getting it designed up so that we are going to send it out to all assessment centres, and both in a hard copy to maybe put on some notice boards in the centres for assessors, and also we're going to send out digital copies. So you'll also get a copy of these slides after, so don't worry about taking any notes of these down. You'll get a copy of the full slide deck, so you'll have all this information. But I was just getting asked quite a lot about what it was getting recommended for, and it has been getting recommended since last August. But I just don't actually have access to that information because I don't see what the assessors are saying. So we thought this would be useful for everyone, and if there's anything you think I could add, or if you have recommended it, please let me know why and what it was for, because that really helps us obviously then to pass on to other assessors. So we are now into the demo stage of the webinar, so I'm just going to exit out of this, and I'm going to open my little EquatIO, which is sitting up here on my desktop. So I'm going to open that up. And then I'm also going to open up my read and write here as well, so that I can show you the math to speech element. And the EquatIO toolbar just sits down the bottom like this, because the read and write toolbar will then obviously dock up at the top of the screen. So it's just going to open up now. And it means that both toolbars can be used at the same time. And then obviously it's not distracting from the student's page, so it won't cover up anything they're trying to do. So I have a little EquatIO document here. So everything I'm going to show today is available in this Word document, and I can share this with anyone if you want to get in touch with me after the webinar, because it will show you all the equations, like you can see here, that I'm going to use today that best demonstrate each feature on the EquatIO toolbar. So anyone who struggles with maths like I used to, then I can share this document with you, and you'll be able to use these equations the same as I am to show students when they come into you. But the likelihood is that the student will probably pick up exactly what features they would use the most, and they'll be familiar with the maths, which is nice. So I'm going to just come over here and go into the options. So unlike read and write, there is a lot less options for the student to actually be concerned with. So if I click in here, you'll see that I'm on the most current version and the premium version of EquatIO. So that's in there, and the student won't need to do anything because they will be on the premium version too. The only thing they might be concerned with is the different prediction options. So there's maths, chemistry, and formulas. So like I said, it covers STEM subjects, chemistry, maths, everything. But if that student is maybe just doing chemistry or pharmacy or straight maths, they can just turn these on and off depending on what they need. So it just limits the prediction options, and it won't confuse them if they see a symbol maybe that they've never seen before, but actually it's not relevant to their course. So it just cuts out any confusion for any of those students. I just have them all turned on all the time for demonstration purposes. And then in the profile, unlike read and write, it is actually linked up to the student's email address. So I'm signed in with Google there just because it's my work email, but the student can sign in with any social media platform, Outlook, Google, whatever platform they use to sign in. I know if there's apps on people's phones, sometimes you can just sign in via Facebook, which that's a possibility as well. So it means that no matter where the student goes, the software is actually linked to their email address rather than their DSA device, for example. So if they maybe do go home for the weekend or the school holidays, it means that they can sign in on maybe a parent's desktop if they have forgotten their DSA device and want to maybe do some work over the weekend, which I know isn't that likely, but at least they do have the option if it's there. And then this is just the license terms. So there's really not as many options, especially in terms of training for EquatIO. So I just close that. And then if I just start from left to right on the toolbar, I'll come down here to the blank bit of the page. And I'll start with my prediction. So this is my equation editor, and it's the prediction element of the toolbar. So if I just start typing a very basic maths formula, you'll see that I've just started typing SQ. And if I'm a student who maybe doesn't know any keyboard shortcuts or how to put some of the more complicated symbols in, then it'll bring up everything because of the prediction options that I have turned on. So it'll bring up everything that it thinks I'm trying to spell by typing SQ. So I can just type that and it'll go in there. You'll also see that it will put in the maths X rather than a multiplication sign, because it will recognize that I am trying to do an X math symbol rather than multiply something. So if I then just continue typing, I can just type the words out and complete my little equation by typing these words like that. And this is all done down in this little box, so they can extend this little box as well, but it's not actually in my Word document yet. And once I'm finished this little equation and want to insert that in my Word document, it will just go in where my mouse cursor is, and I'll click this little button over here, Insert Math, and it should go into the Word document like that for me. So that's it in there, and it's now editable, so you can make it bigger or smaller, just depending on what the student prefers. So we'll keep that a little bit smaller. And then if I click on this and then click my little play button where it's on my read and write toolbar, it should read that out for me.
X squared plus 3y cubed equals 6.
So that's that equation read out. And I might then find that actually it doesn't sound right. Like I said, if the student maybe hears it aloud, they should know what it sounds like. So it's maybe not what they're trying to say, or they might just want to edit it. So it's just a case of clicking this little image here and clicking Edit Math down in the EquatIO toolbar. And it should pull that equation just like that back down in there. And then I can change that if I just want to take a few things out. And then I just click Insert again, and it'll reinsert that equation. And it won't duplicate it, it'll just replace the equation I'm clicked on. So it means that the student can edit that and go back and then obviously proofread it again just to make sure it's correct. And then they can do all their working out by just hitting enter and doing their working out underneath line by line. So it will look nice and neat as well. And it means that the lecturer can see their working out, and it won't just be a case of them giving the right answer and then obviously not getting marks for their working out like they would if they were handwriting it. So it means even if they get the answer wrong, they can still get marks just like it would be on pen and paper. And if you come over here as well, maybe the student does have dyslexia and actually doesn't know how to spell those complicated maths terms. So if I click in here, then there is the option just to click any of these, and you'll see all the little letters. And if I just click this little fraction, for example, then it's just a case of taking these little letters out and replacing them with the numbers, and then that'll be able to be inserted into the document as well. So any of these that the student clicks, they just replace the letters with the numbers that they choose. Then if we click over, there's even more symbols. There's pi in there, some Greek symbols, and again there's more in this one as well. And then in this third little one, there is some commonly used equations. So if I just click this one, it is the quadratic formula, and I can just literally go in and still edit this. So if I just start changing it around, you'll see that prediction still works in here as well. And then once I'm ready to insert it, again, I literally just click Insert Math, and it will then go in just underneath my previous one. And I'm going to show you it reading this out just because it does show the capability of EquatIO, and it would be the most common equation that I would show for the reading aloud, because it's a little bit more for higher education than the previous one. So if I just click play,
Equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 over 2 plus 3.
then you'll see that it will read those out. And if that was a long document like a dissertation, then it means that the text-to-speech will just read over the maths equations and then continue on with the literature on that page as well. So it'll just continue down the document until that student hits stop or decides they need to go in and edit it or maybe do some more research and add to it. So that is the prediction element of EquatIO. I'm just going to check. I don't think there's any questions so far, so I'll just continue on and move on to LaTeX. So the LaTeX is a maths coding language, and it's in there because a lot of students in higher education are very familiar with LaTeX and would use it. But if anyone isn't familiar, then it's not saying that they need to learn it to use our software. But if they are already familiar with it, it's in there, and it means they don't have to change how they actually do their maths in a digital format just because our software doesn't have the capability to do LaTeX. And the best way for me to show it, because I am not maths orientated at all, but I can show it by using these little preset equations. So I always use this one. And then this is the LaTeX over here for anyone who hasn't seen it before. And then obviously this is how it should look, which is much neater and is how it would look if a student was handwriting that. Now, I have obviously used one of these preset equations, so I can go in and I have learned how to edit this LaTeX, which I'm quite impressed with. So if I just go in and edit on this side and change some of these numbers around, then you'll see it will just replace it automatically over here. And then whenever I'm ready to insert that, it will go straight in to my document once I'm finished. And again, I can have it proofread and pull that back down should I think that I have made a mistake somewhere along the line. So you can also copy and paste in here as well, so the student wouldn't have to just use these preset equations or actually know how to type this. If they find something maybe online or it was in one of their journals, it means that they can copy it, put it in here, and then the nice maths will appear on the other side. So they can insert that, and it would just be like they were writing on a piece of paper, and the lecturer would be able to pick that up, which is great. So that is LaTeX just in there, and that's the second option. Now we have the handwriting recognition. Now I'm going to skip over this slightly because I know a lot of DSA students obviously wouldn't have touchscreen laptops, and it would be a case of using their mouse. So if I just really quickly, I do have a touchscreen, but I'm using my mouse for this. So if I click on the handwriting recognition and try and use my mouse, which isn't that easy, but you'll see that it does pick up the messiest handwriting, as you can see. But for a student in a lecture using a mouse, it's obviously not that time efficient because, first of all, they probably wouldn't have the room to actually put their mouse down if they had a little seat. And then also it would take a long time, so they wouldn't be able to write these down really quickly, or if it was a more complicated higher education equation, they wouldn't be able to write a lot down really quickly in a lecture with a little mouse. So this is where EquatIO Mobile comes in. So I'm just going to delete all that for now, and I'll come back to it in a little while. And then the third way we have is speech input. So you just turn that on, and if I just click that, it should start recording what I'm saying. And if I say 2x squared plus 3y over 4, and if I click stop, you'll see that it'll pick up all the English on one side and it'll pick up the maths on the other side. Obviously, there's a few things in there that it wasn't quite meant to say, but I can just go over and delete that. Unfortunately, I have to blame my accent for that a lot of the time. But it will pick up the maths. So if a student is just in their room and they maybe just want to think out loud and turn that on and then just throw in equations like the square root of 45, then you'll see that I can stop that. It'll put the English over here and it'll put the equation over on this side and pick it up, so you can go over, put in the prediction, and you'll have your little equation there as well. It will also work with Dragon to an extent in this little box. There is a few videos on YouTube that John McGowan has done for me that just shows what it will do with Dragon in terms of selecting the different options and then putting the speech in here. So if anyone wants those links sent through to them, please get in touch with me and I'll be able to pass those on to you as well. So the final not input method, but little feature on the EquatIO toolbar is the graph editor. And I always use my first equation, which is this one, to show the graph editor. So I am clicked on this equation, and I can just click on that feature and it will open up a blank graph. Or I can click on this equation and decide that maybe I actually want to show that visually. So I've just clicked Edit Math, and that will pull that back down here for me. So if I want to show this in a line graph, I can just go back at any time and click on it. So it's now down in my little equation editor box. And from here, I can just click the graph editor like so, and it'll bring up my graph and it'll automatically generate that line in there. So it means the line is populated in the graph for me, and I can then continue to add to that just by clicking the drop down over here like this and adding to that graph. So I can just continue doing that. It is 10 by 10, I believe. I can just zoom out and make that as big or as small as I require. And then it means that my lines are in here, and I am visually representing the equations that I have in my document, which I know a lot of students probably need to do. And it's all still down in this little box. So as soon as I am ready to actually enter that into my Microsoft Word document, I can click this little button over here, which is Insert Graph. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you a little accessibility feature which was added into the graph editor, and it is the ability to hear what the line should sound like. So in order to do that, I click Alt-T. Bear with me, if anybody has their sound up loud, maybe turn it down slightly before I turn this on. And I'm going to click H. And I'll not play it for too long because I know it doesn't sound quite right to all of us. But for someone who is maybe studying physics and wants to know the frequency of that line and knows what it should sound like, then they can hear that played out for them. So it's just a little accessibility feature that was added. It won't be for everyone, but it's in there if anyone does want to hear the lines played out. So I'm now finished with my graph, and I can just click the Insert Graph, which is changed from Insert Math, and that will now go in under my equation. 2x squared plus 3y equals 8, and then we know that the red line is obviously the equation visualized. And then because I've added to it, I can come in and put that equation in there, then insert the math, and that will appear underneath as well. So it means I have all my equations then linked up to the line, and then I can color code those if I want to maybe turn that red and I want to turn that blue, just so that I know which line is linked up to which equation. Then I can do that as well, which is great. So I'm going to come out of that now, and I'll close down my read and write because I'm going to move on to show you the web app. So I close down so this is my Windows version of EquatIO. I'm going to close down my Microsoft Word and open up my Chrome browser. And then I'm going to go into this little tab here, which you'll see is my little mathspace. So this is the web app. In order to access, if I just open this, these are all different blank spaces that I've created to show working out over the last few months. I'm going to click into this one. So in order to access the web app, you can type in EquatIO just down here. So you can type EquatIO into the Chrome browser toolbar, or simply just type in mathspace and it will pick that up. So these are all linked to the one EquatIO account. So like I said before, the user's EquatIO account is linked to their email address, not their device. So as soon as I open this for the first time, you'll see that over here, I am signed in under the same email address. So it means they're all linked together, and it'll pick up that that's me, and I won't have to enter any product codes or serial numbers. It'll just know that I have the full premium version of the main EquatIO toolbar, and it'll then give me access to the web app. So like I said, EquatIO gets you access to this web app, and what it is essentially a blank canvas for students to show all their working out, just as if they would on a blank piece of paper. So for example, you'll see, which I always show this one, and it is extremely messy, but it is exactly how a maths brain would work if they were doing their working out. So it'll be everything everywhere. There's images in there, there's scribbles out. If anyone's seen or anyone's done maths, I know when I was doing my working out, when I was back in school, which was not that long ago, there was a complete mess when I was doing my working out, and you would make mistakes. So this is essentially a blank canvas to be treated as a blank piece of paper for students to show their working out, which is a bit more organic than doing it line by line and nice and neat like the Word document, which I showed you before. So they can just put all their ideas down here. I'm going to just close this one now and work off this one, which is a little bit clearer. So I have inserted all these different things using different modes down here. So you'll see up until this one are the 4 input methods I showed you, including the graph editor. Then there is a little link for EquatIO Mobile. If I click that, this will give the student the link. So there it is there. And it'll give the student the link which they can scan this little code or just type this into the Chrome browser on their Android devices or into Safari on their Apple devices. And really any smartphone that isn't Apple, as long as you have the Chrome browser downloaded, which is free, then the student can get access to this little app as well, which I will show you in a second. So that's a little link for that. And then you also have the option to select any tools, put in text mode, which is how I put on this little solve the below equation. And you can do freehand drawing. So that's the same as the sort of handwriting recognition, which is just over here. So if I use my mouse again, except it'll go straight in here rather than into the EquatIO toolbar. So I've been practicing using my mouse, so that's why it's not too bad in there. And then if I just make any mistakes, I can just go back, turn that off, and then that's my little image in there using my freehand drawing. And then like the other one, you can see you just click shapes over here. There's airplanes, rockets, and everything in there. If you do have a visual learner who does like to put in these little pictures just to actually visualize what they're doing, maybe they're working out the speed of an airplane or the weight of a car or angles in a triangle, then you can just put these little images in there, and it's just a real visualization for any users who like to use that. It's not for everyone, but it's there if anyone needs to use it. So like I said, there is then the EquatIO Mobile. So I can do all my working out using this toolbar here. But if I do want to use a little mobile app, I'll just show you how to do that now. I'm going to turn on my camera just so you can see my mobile. So hopefully everyone will be able to see me. Now, hopefully everyone's able to see me now. So this is my little phone here, and if everyone can see, just over on this side is my little EquatIO app, and it has my little EquatIO person on it. So it's just over here on my screen, and I'm going to click into that, and you'll see that it will upload and it'll bring up the active documents I have. So because I'm working on this mathspace at the minute, then it'll bring that up. If I then also open up an EquatIO in Google Documents and open my EquatIO toolbar, it should also bring up my Google Doc as well. So let's just see if that comes up. Now, so I am going to work off the EquatIO toolbar. So it means that it's on my app now. If I just open up. So it is on my app, and it means that it will bring up a mini EquatIO toolbar like this. Hopefully everyone can see that. And then I'm just going to edit this so I can see my webcam. See, there we go. So hopefully everyone's still able to see me. If you can't, just let me know. So I have my little mini EquatIO toolbar now, and it's on my phone, and it means that I can start typing into that. So I can literally use the handwriting recognition, and it'll turn my phone into a touchpad, which means that I don't need to use a mouse and I don't need to use the nice fancy touchscreen laptop, because I will be able to use my phone, which most users are used to anyway. So if I then just start writing a little equation on my phone, it will then be able to be transferred straight into that document. So if I just click the little button on my app, I will handwrite it, but it will actually make it into a digital format. So it means that it's nice and neat. Even though I have used my finger to handwrite it and it's probably a little bit messy, it'll turn it into a digital format. So I'm going to save that as math, and then I'm going to insert that, and you'll see that it'll appear up on the screen here. So that's my equation, and I can now have that read aloud using my little EquatIO mathspace app, because you'll see that just over here there is a little option for speech. So it means I can click that.
Numerator 2 plus 3 and denominator the square root of 20 times 3.
Then it will read that out to me, and I've entered that through my phone. So it means that all the working out can be done through my phone and put straight into this little mathspace app as well. The other good thing is that I can actually take a picture. So if I write down a little equation quite quickly, I'm going to just turn my webcam off because I'm not sure that it's actually on. So if I'm going to write down a little equation really quickly, and I'm going to insert this as an image, I'll actually draw a little angle, and then on my phone I am just taking a picture of this now using the EquatIO app. So I've turned my camera on, and I'll show you the little image, and it's going to upload straight into this little mathspace just like that as well. So if you have a student that is in a library and they see something and they want to take a picture of it, or if they're in a lecture and they want to take down a picture of an equation that the lecturer has maybe put on the board really quickly, they can do that, and they can insert that as an image, as I've done, or like before, they can insert that as maths. So it means that it will be digital and accessible, so they can then edit that. So for example, because I inserted this little one as maths, even though I drew it with my finger, I can click on it. I've heard it read aloud and I've maybe made a slight mistake, so I can click edit math, and that'll pull that back down here into my computer, and then I can edit this and replace the math, and then it will go back in here. So if this was me working out my equation, it means that I could go in, do all my working out in here, and once I'm finished, then I am ready to insert that into my document. So it's still in mathspace, but if I come over here and just click download as PNG, that'll download as a little file. I will open that, and mine always appears black for some reason, but don't worry, once it's in the document it looks correct. And I'm going to copy that and then open up my little Word document from before and just paste just as if it was a normal image. And then as you can see, that will be all my working out in here. So it means that I can have that underneath the equation, and it's a bit more fluid and how it would be if it was pen and paper, rather than having to do it line by line and nice and neat, which isn't really how students doing maths brains would normally work, because it is very much putting everything down as it comes to you, and it doesn't always look as pretty, but it always has the answer. So it means they'll get their marks for the working out, and they'll be able to show all that there as well. I'm also just going to come out of this, and that is EquatIO Mobile and mathspace. So I don't think there's any questions on that anyway. And the final thing I'm going to show is the screenshot reader, which I mentioned was just released today. So if I just come out and go into a Google document. Now it's just been released on the Google toolbar, so you can see it down here of the screenshot reader, and it will come in Windows, but today is the very first release of the Google version of it. And over here, I have Googled some equations earlier on today, and basically the screenshot reader, just like the read and write screenshot reader, makes web documents accessible. So it means that if I see this image online, or maybe a lecturer sends out an PDF with maths equations on it, so I can just copy this image and put it into my Google Doc. No, I didn't do that right. So copy it and paste it into my Google Doc, but this image wasn't inserted with EquatIO, so read and write won't read it out. If I click play, it just won't read it because it wasn't inserted with EquatIO, so read and write isn't programmed to read maths equations from other sources. But if I then click the little screenshot reader and do this, then it'll pull that equation that I've copied from online, put it in this little box. I can click these options, and if I come down here and click edit with EquatIO, it'll pull this equation then down into my EquatIO toolbar, and it means I can then edit it, or I can insert it like this. If I click insert math, and it will then go in, instead of the image, you'll see it's disappeared, and I've now put that in with EquatIO, so it means that I can click the play button here and it will read out the maths for me.
When 3y equals 2 times open pair 2 plus 2y close pair 1.
So as you can see, it states how many lines there are, and it will go through each line then individually and read that out, even though it was pulled from online. And then that can be edited with EquatIO as well, so it makes that much more accessible. And that is the very first time I've shown that, so hopefully you can see how it would be useful in terms of making everything accessible and then using it with read and write. And I'm sure that will develop much more as well. I haven't had a full demonstration of that myself, but if you get a wee copy of EquatIO from me, then you'll be able to open that and try it out for yourself on different documents and show students, and hopefully they can see obviously how it can be used to make all those university documents more accessible, as a lot of them are in maybe PDF or e-journal formats usually. So that is the entire EquatIO demo. I am going to just skip back in here, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know now and I'll be able to answer anything for you, or if you found it useful, please let me know. So I'll give you a few seconds if anybody either wants to type some questions into the chat or come off mute and ask me them now. Nope, no questions from anyone. Everyone must be maths experts then. So hopefully everyone got the gist of that and was able to follow it okay. If you do have any questions that you just didn't want to share in the webinar, please get in touch with me. I'll put my email address back up on the screen here. So that's it, n.reid@texthelp.com, and feel free to get in touch. And if you want a copy of EquatIO as well, maybe you don't already have one, let me know and I will get that sent out to you. But for now, I'm going to just close the webinar and thank you all for joining. And there is a few more running, so any colleagues, please just pass on the invitation if you think anyone would benefit from those. Thanks so much.